What was the goal of the men's group?
It was just, I don't even know, man, because it didn't really seem like anybody was like moving forward with anything.
Right.
You would come in and we would talk about, what we were doing at that moment and what kind of wins we'd had. And then everybody had a hug.
Okay.
Just
there are some good mental health clinicians out there. Have you ever met any of them?
I have not. I have
No.
not.
Not many have, I guess.
No. And it's like, where do you go about finding them? I think that's kind of what I wanted to get at it with you, maybe.
It's tough, man. I've been, because we've been chatting for a couple of days here about having this conversation, and you mentioned that was one of your questions, and I deal with this question all the time because I'm full up. I do a clinical practice here in Colorado, but then I can do some coaching across borders that it's a little different, but I can't take anybody. I'm turning people away on a daily basis. And a lot of the good clinicians I know, it's the same problem. They're turning people away on a daily basis. And so this problem, I haven't really sorted out a solution for it, really. There are some questions you can ask, I think, if you go onto some of these directories online and you're looking around for somebody in your neighborhood, because maybe you got something legit you need to deal with, like some anxiety disorder or some substance abuse, or there's something going on at home. There's a good clinician can really be worth their weight in gold if they help you avoid certain problems and get back to life. And if you go to some online directories like Psychology Today or whatever, that's a good place to start vetting people. And I've started recommending to guys that they ask a couple of questions when they're interviewing people, assuming you can find somebody. Like if you're going through your insurance plan, that we can talk about that later, but that's, you get mixed results there, and usually end up, if you want good service, you end up paying for it. And I've been recommending to guys that they ask, number one, you interview somebody on the phone and you ask them, what do you think of the American Psychological Association's guidelines for working with boys and men? And this was, for anybody who doesn't know, this was a set of guidelines that came out in 2019. And it's really, clinical guidelines are supposed to be like best practices when you're working with a particular disorder or a particular population. This is really just like a handbook for radical feminism, these guidelines. And so if you ask somebody, what do you think of those guidelines? The answer I would want to hear is, well, they're a mixed bag, but on balance, they're not very useful, and they're actually kind of destructive. That's the answer I would want to hear.
Yeah. I was listening today. You put a video up on YouTube where you talk about your kind of response to the APA's, criticism of masculinity, or even their war on it, and how everything is like a feminist view or approach to dealing with everything.
It pretty much is. Yeah, you can see it in all the research. Well, I shouldn't say all the research. That's not true. Evolutionary psychology, the researchers tend to be pretty unbiased because they're just interested in how things work. But there's so many other areas of the field where, like social psychology, it's embarrassingly bad these days. It's so ideologically driven. But I want to throw out that second question that you can ask. My two questions that I think guys should be asking right now. So one is, what do you think of the guidelines? The other one was, what issues do you feel that it's important to discuss with your clients? And the answer should be, I don't push an agenda on my clients. My clients have my undivided attention. I have no political agenda here. That should be, that is the only acceptable answer. If they come back with anything like toxic masculinity or anything at all, vote for Trump. That's an agenda too. You're not paying to hear that you should vote for Trump. So those are my two questions that I recommend.
God, those are good. Those are really good start.